Hey guys, it's Troy. Welcome to another episode. Give her the thrill of uncertainty. Give her the thrill of uncertainty, all right? So one of the problems I think that a lot of guys encounter in the dating field is that they are too on the nose, all right? They are too obvious about what it is they want, what it is they're looking for, and what their intentions are, okay? So what that means is that right from the start, the woman has absolute certainty about the guy's intentions, about the guy's desires, about what he wants as his, 5-year plan, 10-year plan, whatever, and what he intends to do. All of that's great in a way, but it's not very sexy, okay? Why not? Because certainty kills mystique, and mystique is at the root of desire, okay? Mystique is the lever that you need to pull in order to create desire, okay? So when you offer somebody complete certainty immediately, tactically that's a very bad thing to do. Now, I'm not saying that further down the line, you get into a relationship, you are a couple, maybe you start living together, whatever. Obviously, at that point, you have to offer some kind of certainty, right? And that's going to be expected, and that is the right thing to do if you are committing to that person in a conventional monogamous relationship type of way, or even some other form of relationship, right? You want to offer them some kind of certainty, but at the beginning, it's a bad thing to do, all right? And the reason it's a bad thing to do is as I've said, it kills the vibe, it kills mystery. Mystery, okay, is all about desire. Mystery begets desire, okay? It's probably no coincidence that one of the most famous exponents of the dating game who's ever existed was himself called Mystery, okay? He called himself Mystery. Why did he call himself that? He could have called himself anything. He called himself Casanova or something like this. He called himself Mystery. Why is that? I don't know, but I would conjecture that it's because on some level he was acknowledging the fact that mystery is the lever that needs to be pulled if desire is to be activated and indeed maintained, okay? So giving away too much of yourself, giving away too much certainty too soon is tactically bad, and it's also a bit weak, okay? Because certainty needs to be earned, all right? You can't just meet somebody for one date or two dates and then say, okay, right, I'm now going to give you complete certainty. Anything you want, no worries, babe. I've got it covered. You can have absolute certainty, absolute clarity, no problems at all. If you say that, you're a bit of an idiot. And I was actually having a conversation with a younger woman about this recently, and I made this point to her. And I said, these guys who, they meet you and then immediately they're offering a sort of a committed relationship, and she said yeah, she said I would see that as a bit of an ick. I would see that as a bit problematic if a guy, particularly an older guy, is willing to almost just sign his life over on the basis of a couple of dates and a few conversations. It is absurd. And if you're an older guy and you're dating younger women, you've got to think about the optics of this. You've got to think about how this looks. I mean, if you were going into a business deal, if you were going into some kind of business negotiation or business arrangement, would you immediately, after one meeting or a couple of meetings, just say, yep, no problems, okay, fine, I'm going to sign everything, great, we're good to go? I mean, if you thought it was a fantastic opportunity, maybe you would, but I would suggest that you would probably do a lot more due diligence than that. And also, it would likely be a bit of a foolhardy move on your part if you did, okay? This is in a business scenario. Because there can be a lot of hidden trapdoors, right? In all of these scenarios, in romantic scenarios, in business scenarios, whatever. And you don't want to proceed too quickly, okay? Now, what's funny is that we get a lot of clients who are very successful actually in business, who do really, really well in business, who have amazing careers, you know, they've amassed great fortunes, they've amassed great wealth, and yet they're absolutely terrible with women. And but the ironic thing is they're not even applying the same things that they would apply in business to the women that they're interacting with, okay? They're giving these women that they meet, because the woman's pretty and she's a bit younger and whatever, they're just giving her a complete free pass, right? They're just going like, okay, yeah, fine, no problem. Here's the keys to the kingdom. Tossing them on the table in front of her, you know? What's she gonna think of you if you do that, right? How does that look? And also, strategically, how good an idea is that, right? You know? So, withholding certainty, not as a Machiavellian, you know, dark, horrible thing to do, but just as a form of self-protection and a form of common sense, I would argue is the right tactic. And also, most importantly, once again, it helps to retain mystery. And mystery is one of the most important aspects, if not the most important aspect of attraction. So, hope you got something from this one. Do give me a like, do give me a comment, subscribe to the channels if you haven't already. If you're interested in coaching, you can email me, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, email address below. I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.